Dr. Buje. And yeah, I'm happy to always talk about the challenges we face in Africa. And because I live in Africa and I know what it takes, and part of my work is to provide solutions to the looming problems of environmental issues we have in Nigeria and in Africa at large. So it is no news that we all know that, I mean, it's been said the global south does not contribute or contribute less to the global climate impact, climate change, but yet we are the receiving end, basically because of our vulnerability and a whole lot. And so that's why the impact is really evident in Africa. And because we have that little capacity, not inadequate capacity, let me use that word, to be able to tackle the issues on ground. Not like the solutions are not there, not like the problems have not been identified. But due to so many factors, I mean, this most of our problems have not been addressed. So and some of these challenges we face are interconnected and require urgent attention. So they also, and these challenges also threaten the rich biodiversity in Africa and contributes to our economic, affecting our economic stability and the well-being of the people in Africa. I remember growing up from the states where I come from. I know when I was a child, we were seeing butterflies everywhere, and we were seeing termites, especially during the raining season. And there was this particular street that housed a lot of bats. I mean, you could see them. It has become their habitat. But over the past few years, it hasn't been like that anymore. You hardly see this species that we're blessed with. The rains have actually changed right now. I mean, unlike usually in the last 10, 20 years or so, I mean, to the best of my knowledge growing up, I mean, the rains were really very heavy, especially in the up north where I come from. But those things are not the usual, I mean, it's not the usual trend has been altered. And so in Africa, we're facing climate change. I mean, this is no news at all. Like I said, these problems are evident already. We're all aware of them. But just to re-emphasize on these problems, and then also because we are here to have these discussions and look at what can be done in terms of solutions. So particularly because of our vulnerability, like I said earlier, we're being impacted by climate change. We're experiencing rising temperatures, which have led to drought. I mean, especially in some of these agrarian communities, we do not, I mean, farmers have lost their livelihood. Some parts that require a certain amount of rain, or probably they do not require so much rain for them to strive. But at times we're having this inconsistency in annual rainfall, which has actually affected the the production of the growing those particular crops. And so, in summary, you know, the impact will be loss of livelihoods, hunger, economic downtime, and quite a lot. We're experiencing, I mean, and so this drought has also led to the farmer-herders clash, particularly in Nigeria, Niger, and some other regions, because it's all about the strife for natural resources. We're looking at the rich biodiversity that Africa is blessed with, the forest resources that we have, and that is what the herders actually feed their cattle with. And so in the absence of these cattle, you find them encroaching into farmlands, and that has led to farmer herders clash. We're having floods. 20 years ago, in 2012, we had devastating flood in Nigeria, which actually was all over the news. In 2020 as well, we had another flood, which is 10 years gap. And also this year, it's not, reports have shown that, it won't be, the floods will keep occurring and they will continue to intensify because of climate change. And so this year again, we're having another flood. I'm very sure some of you might have seen it all over, probably on the internet. But if you haven't seen that, you can Google on that to see the floods in particularly the northeast, where we have in Borno, where the floods have about 1 million people have lost, over 1 million have lost their houses, lives have been lost as well, livelihoods have been lost. And so this, I'm speaking about Nigeria as a case study because I live here and I have evidence to back up whatever I say today. I have mentioned about the alteration in our farming system, and the impacts have led to food insecurity. We're having rise in food prices, and not just because of the economic situation we find ourselves right now, but because the food is not readily available. Those crops are not readily available anymore. Livelihoods are being hampered, which has increased the level of poverty that Africa faces, especially for rural communities that depend on agriculture. We're experiencing deforestation. Africa is blessed with very rich forest resources. But unfortunately, over the time, we're losing these forest resources at an alarming rate due to logging, due to agricultural expansion, due to urbanization. We have forgotten that these forest resources house our species, our birds, and quite a lot of other species are found in the forest. But with logging, agricultural expansion, and urbanization, we're losing up on that. So, and also these losses contribute to climate change as well, which disrupts our water cycle, leading to drought and making communities susceptible to extreme weather events. We're also experiencing pollution within Africa as well. Poor waste management, those are environmental issues that have become a huge concern. We have very poor waste management, and we have a lot of we generate waste ourselves. We don't have most of our, we don't have biodegradable products here in Africa. So you see us using plastics, you see us using all sorts of trashing. That mentality of recycling or reducing plastic pollution hasn't really sunk in our heads. And so you see pollution everywhere. Is it air pollution, land pollution impacting on our health due to poor sanitation? And so in urban regions, they face quite a lot of this pollution compared to the rural communities. I have mentioned loss of biodiversity already.
Yes.
And so the good news is there are solutions to all of these problems.
Okay.
Now that is where we're saying transition to renewable energy. We need to transit to renewable energy. We need to go where we are investing in solar, wind, to reduce the reliance on fossil fuel, and also to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions, and also provide, electricity for underserved communities. We can also engage in climate resilient agriculture, where we're having drought resilient crop varieties, agroforestry, aquaponics, vertical sack farming. We're training women in sustainable practices, that can enhance food production. I have taken an initiative through a network that I created to have a women wing where we started teaching women on climate smart agriculture. We have planted some potatoes, and in a few weeks we had pictures all over the social media of the progress of this potatoes and also yams that we planted. We're encouraging women to have home gardening. We're encouraging women to plant vegetables, utilizing little space in their homes. So in terms of deforestation, we need to promote initiatives on tree planting. And one of the initiatives my organization is taking is to have a garden and also to establish Green Savers Club. We call the project Air Lungs Project because the trees are the lungs of the earth. It helps the earth to breathe. It helps to capture carbon, and so it gives us clean air. So that's why we call it the Air Lungs Project. And under it, we have the Biodiversity Garden, BTG Garden, and we also have the Green Savers Club, where we enlighten children on tree planting, and they plant trees. So it's one thing to plant trees, and it's another thing to ensure that those trees survive. So we also developed a tree logbook where they are able to record the progress of their trees. They measure the height, the width, the coloration, if there's any problem, so that they can nurture the trees till those trees grow. So we're open up for partnership to be able to, ensure that we scale up this project beyond the state where I live, and then even the schools in the state, we haven't reached as many schools as we want to. We're also looking at how we can partner with other organizations to push on this particular project. So yes, sustainable forestry is also very important that we engage in, where we ensure that, we say no to logging. Regulations or policies are put in place to ensure that, trees are not being felled at will. That is where, so for people living in rural communities, we need to also give them alternative cook stoves, so that they don't have to cut trees for their energy sources for their cooking. And so before you take away the usual old method or traditional method of people's lifestyle, you must give them an alternative that is acceptable, and to them it will reduce the stress, particularly on women, because using firewood to cook gives us stress. It takes out of our productive time as women. It reduces on our productivity because we take care of the elderly at home, we take care of the children, the sick, the husbands. Even if you're not married, your brothers, your relatives, you take care of them. So women have this huge responsibility that comes naturally on us. We need to also organize cleanup campaigns to be able to address issues of waste management. We need to also teach people the culture of waste segregation and also recycling. We need to also, in terms of biodiversity protection, we need to mark protected areas and establish management of those protected areas, and also engage communities in terms of management of this biodiversity. Rural people have a connection, indigenous people have a connection with our natural resources, our forest resources. So we need to support them to be able to protect these natural resources. We need to engage in community engagement, environmental education, youth empowerment, and a whole lot of solutions that we can engage in. Sustainable development policies that are not just on paper, but are being implemented. Someone said that Africa, I used to think it was a Nigerian thing until I was in a webinar. Someone said Africa, we're always quick to have lots of policies on paper, but the implementation is always very difficult. It's very slim. And this is where the youth need to engage in climate and environmental governance. We need to understand governance process and hold our leaders accountable and demand for transparency, and also ensure the implementation of those policies and also the translation of those policies to the rural communities to be able to understand what those policies are all about. So in terms of youth-led initiative, we have quite a number of them that are coming up, and we encourage more and more to come. One thing I try to do is I ensure that for any young person that has any activity or engagement, I try to support them as well. If you invite me to speak here, I will be there. It's easier to turn down an offer from a bigger organization than from smaller organizations or organized initiatives that are just coming up. It is one way of giving back and then also to lift other people as well, because we need more hands on deck. We need more to empower more young people to be able to lead initiatives that have solutions, to be able to lead initiatives that will give results, to be able to lead initiatives that will give us the desired results that we want, that will make an impact in Africa, that will take the lead in Africa.
Yes, thank you so much.